and welcome to the Education Station. I'm Caitlin and I'm here with the editors of our EdQuarter magazines. We have Joe from Independent Education.
Hello.
Charlie from Education Technology.
Hello.
And Kathy from University Business.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about some news stories from the past 2 weeks in education that have piqued our interest. So we've got Labour v Independent Schools, LGBT inclusive education, and of course the university strikes discussion, because that's coming up. First up, we have our big story of the week, which is about Labour trying to axe the charitable status that independent schools have, and it's been branded as vandalism. So Joe, tell us more.
Yeah. So it's no surprise we're going to be talking about this. It's been absolutely everywhere, and it is a real concern for independent schools.
Mm-hmm.
HMC, which is an association for private school heads, their executive director, Mike Buchanan, said at their conference this week that the political threat is real, and he was the one who said it was an act of vandalism as well. So basically, the Labour Party have agreed that if they win power, they will get rid of independent schools, integrating them into the state sector. So their first priority, like you said, was to remove their charitable status and tax exemptions. But they also want to add VAT to fees, restrict their pupils' access to university, and redistribute their properties into the state sector. So the schools are arguing, all of these things are going to have to make them close anyway. It's just.
And do you know why they had a charitable status?
When those schools started, they were for poorer people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and because of the sort of bursaries and scholarships they give out, they were named as charities. But a lot of people have a problem with that now, because they're saying there aren't enough pupils on bursaries to deserve these tax breaks anymore. But there have been objections to this, of course. HMC commissioned a poll by Comres, which found that 68% of the public think that parents should be able to pay for their children's education. And out of those, 56% of Labour voters agreed. So there's a bit of a gap between the party policy and what people want.
I guess there's a breach of human rights of parents to choose the education for their child if this were to go ahead. Which is, kind of every parent feels they have the right to make the right decisions for their child, whatever that might be. So I think that is potentially one of the key arguments against doing this, and that's something most people would agree with, that you ultimately have that right to make that choice. And outside of education, people do make choices elsewhere in terms of how they might do something.
Absolutely. And it's about idealism and about practicality as well. I mean, it would be great to think that no person would be denied an education, a good education, just because they didn't have enough money. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But at the same time, there's obviously a practical issue. We do live in a capitalist society. They are part of this system. It will make great waves if it's completely torn down. But I am interested to see what happens. I think it would be nice to see resources shared more freely.
Yes,
that would be really nice. And more bursaries and scholarships coming out of it. But we return to the charitable status, so they kind of earn their tax breaks.
I'm wondering how that might be enabled to have more scholarships available, and what kind of those blocks are to that happening, because
they've seen the school getting less profit. And pay in independent schools is far higher than pay for state school teachers. So whether that will have to be equalised in some way.
A lot of state schools agree that they shouldn't be dissolved as well. The head teacher of Kensington Aldridge Academy, he said private schools should do more to support the state sector, but it would be best to build on what is already happening. Independent schools are striking up a lot more partnerships these days, and at every event and conference I go to, that is the main focus. They're like more partnerships and publicise them nationally. So it should be going in the right direction, but this is obviously a major concern.
And this is skipping a lot of steps. This is going right to the end zone, isn't it? And just getting rid of them rather than trying to use the system we've got and make it more equitable.
Improving it. Absolutely. I think also one of the things I've read is that there would be a big strain on state schools if that were to happen in their resources. I can't remember the number of students that would then be sort of moved, but it's thousands. So
I have it here actually. It's 600,000 pupils.
Wow.
the state school would have to include. So
wow.
Yeah, it's massive.
A big burden to start with.
Okay, so segueing on to our quote of the week, we are going to talk about LGBT inclusive education. So some research has been commissioned by the Stonewall charity, and it's found that majority of people think it's right for teachers at primary schools to talk positively about LGBT families. Jo?
Yeah, so they commissioned research by NFP Synergy, and they found that 60% of British people believe it's right to teach primary school pupils about different kinds of families, including same-sex parenting. And this figure increases to 68% in young people aged 16 to 24. So it's obviously a really sensitive issue, and because everyone has different views, and I guess it's just about respecting everyone's views. I know in independent schools, they're showing time and time again that LGBT education is important to them, and many of them are Stonewall School champions, including Bryanston School. They held an event this year where they invited lots of schools to come together and discuss best practice in awareness and inclusion.
And because some people say it's sort of too early to talk about, you know, different families and things, but we probably all know people from our childhood who would have really appreciated that kind of just subtle mentioning of a different kind of family.
And it doesn't have to be, you know, in-depth sex education at primary school age. It would be normal, I say normal, I don't like that word, but it would be the existing family education, but just including different types of families. I mean, the nuclear family now is much less prevalent than it was in the past. And so you need to be able to include children who don't come from nuclear families, who maybe have one parent or are raised by grandparents or guardians, or are in the care system, or have two mums or two dads, or whatever the family dynamic is. I think it's important for young people as early as possible to understand that not everybody is the same, and that is a great thing.
That's okay. Yeah,
not only is it okay, it's wonderful that, you know, the diversity is something we're really lucky to have in this country, and something we should celebrate.
Yeah, and I think some people talk about things like divorce or just different people would make people get divorced more, or make people, you know, and it's not really about that, is it?
No, it's making children feel less isolated and making them feel like what's happening in their home isn't outside the norm and isn't something that they should be afraid or ashamed of. It's showing children that there are lots of different ways to have a family, and that all of those things can be lovely.
It's also about, ultimately about inclusion and acceptance and normalising things, and you don't want stereotypes to be passed on from generations, which happens if you just leave that education to later in life. You're more likely to, you know, reach those children, make sure everybody is understanding.
Absolutely. And to help them through difficult situations, you know, if they're going through something like divorce, that will really affect a young child, and if they know that there is an open and safe space at school to be able to talk about it with a trusted grown-up who understands the situation and is not going to judge them, that can only be a positive thing for that child's mental health and development.
And how early do we think this sort of thing should come into teaching?
I think simple things like the books they read they should be diverse, so you get a wide mix of families and
and so even when you come into reception class, you know, at 4 or 5 years old, if all you hear is mummy and daddy, or you know, whatever the dynamic is that your teacher is propagating, then if you don't have mummy and daddy at home, you can start to feel alienated very young, and it's such a formative age. So it, you know, like we were all saying, it doesn't have to be really involved sort of graphic education. It can be just, like Kathy said, different types of books, just representation of different kinds of families is important, I think.
Sort of really normalised.
Just two mummies, two daddies, or whatever dynamic you've got at home. It would be nice to see just more.
I'm going to pass back to you, Charlie, for the person of the week. Who is a 10-year-old. She's called Ellen.
That's right.
And she's invented her own clarinet.
She has. So Ellen, as you said, is 10, and she has won a competition that was run by the IET, the Institute of Engineering and Technology, and the comic Beano, and it was run by both of them. And the challenge for young people was to
redesign something that they could not live without if they ever went to space. And Ellen decided that she would not be able to live without her clarinet. She loves playing her clarinet. But she is a very smart little girl, and she realised that because of the lack of atmosphere in space, she would not be able to play her clarinet as she does on Earth. So she redesigned it. She redesigned the clarinet so that it would be able to be played in space.
That's crazy. I didn't even think that was a thing.
I know.
That you
How did she do that?
Yeah.
So she added air movement systems so that the air would be able to circulate through the clarinet, which obviously in space with no atmosphere, it doesn't do that.
So is it to do with lack of oxygen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's lack of atmosphere, so lack of any air or particles that move through the instrument to make the sound. So yeah, and she realised as well that she wouldn't be able to play a clarinet if she had a big space helmet on.
Exactly.
So what did she do about that?
Yeah, so she redesigned the mouthpiece and the way that the clarinet works. So
that's so clever.
Yeah, it's really clever. And the IET and Beano agreed, and she won this competition. And they made a prototype of her clarinet that she designed, and they did send it up to a distance of 35 kilometres to the edge of space, where temperatures drop as low as minus 63 degrees Celsius. And it then returned to Earth, and it came down reaching speeds over 150 miles an hour. Wow. So it's really exciting.
High speed.
Yeah, high speed clarinet. And Ellen got to go and see the launch. She saw the launch of her clarinet into space. And she also, because the competition was run in partnership with Beano, Ellen got turned into her own Beano character. So if you go on the Education Technology website, you can see a lovely picture of Ellen looking very, very excited, holding up her comic where she stars alongside Dennis the Menace and Masha.
That's such a lovely story. That's the dream, isn't it?
It's the dream. It's the absolute dream. I'm really I'm 31 and I'm seriously jealous of this 10-year-old. But it's so great, and I really enjoyed watching the launch as well. There's a video that you can see of the clarinet being launched, and we've got that on our site as well. So if you want to see clarinet being launched into space,
who wouldn't? That's amazing,
right?
I know. I saw that video. It was really good.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah. So that's our person of the week. Well done, Ellen.
Our fun story of the week is pretty space themed as well.
It is.
Star Wars.
I'm such a big Star Wars fan. There is, you may have heard about the charity First UK, and their brand new challenge has been launched. It's called the First Tech Challenge, and it has a Star Wars theme. So the theme this year is First Rise, the Force is Building. And it encourages the entrance, so it's for anyone between the ages of 12 and 18, to innovate in the built environment. So the first game, Skystone, will challenge teams to build a sustainable city that is, quote, out of this world.
Wow.
So it's all about sustainability and developing built environments. So it should be a really fun competition. The programme's taking place over the course of the 2019-20 academic year. And so it will include regional tournaments, which will typically take place in January and February 2020. And then the top 100 teams from the UK will compete at the Copper Box Arena in London, and the winner or winners will represent the UK at the World Championships, which take place in Detroit in the USA.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, so you could win a trip to Michigan, which is
great.
Amazing.
Yeah. And is this, will these be realised, these designs?
I'm actually not sure. That's a really good question. I'm not sure if there will be prototypes. There will be building involved. The CEO of First UK, who is Ed Cervantes Watson, he said that we're building more than robots. We're building a diverse and inclusive pipeline of young people equipped with the technical knowledge and soft skills they will need to take on tomorrow's challenges. And he's really keen for supporting educators to work with industry to help bridge the gap between the classroom and the workplace of tomorrow, which obviously is going to be very different than the one we know now.
Yeah, and that's so cool that they're using it for sustainability as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We won't have a world to live in if we don't
Indeed.
do this stuff.
Indeed. And I think there are so many tech and engineering competitions across the country and across the world that happen. We detail as many as we can on the events section of our site if you're interested in that kind of thing, getting involved in competitions. And there's so much going on to try and address these global issues, and it's lovely to see that young people are being listened to and really getting involved, and we can utilise their amazing ideas.
And they are becoming young, like the awareness is younger and younger, isn't it?
Absolutely extraordinary.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I was that aware of sustainability at that age.
No, I definitely wasn't.
No, it's incredible. It's really heartening, and it's lovely to see. So
it's a really good idea for schools to look up all these courses and competitions, because they make such a big difference to the pupils, like with Ellen as well. It's just...
They do. Yeah, I mean, there's some phenomenal opportunities out there, and teachers can get involved in a lot of them too. And it just means that children or young people are able to engage in competitions and engage in activities that maybe they wouldn't have time for in school, or maybe a school would like to get involved in some kind of activity that they don't have the resources to set up themselves. So do go and take a look at these competitions. There are lots of them about.
Especially in areas as well like engineering and tech, like they need so many more people to go into them, so it's just
absolutely.
Did you guys want to talk about World Teachers' Day?
Yeah, it is World Teachers' Day, the 5th of October, and a Twitter campaign has been launched, which is #ProudToTeach. So I'd encourage all teachers to go and take photos and videos in their schools, share it online, just because it's really important to remember these positive things and also think about teachers that have inspired you as well.
Right, so coming up next in news is our second big story we have, which is about strikes at uni. And this follows on from the strikes that were happening last year over pensions. So, Kathy, do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, cool. So basically, as you're probably aware, ballots close at the end of this month. It's an incredibly stressful time for both lecturers and students. I've commissioned a piece looking at the legal perspective of university business, and Chris Roberts makes a comment and draws a parallel with last year, saying that the strike last year is thought to have been unprecedented in scale, with over 40,000 staff forgoing 14 days' pay.
Wow.
And thousands of students losing teaching and learning time. So obviously it's pretty major for both students and lecturers alike. So, and obviously it's not done lightly because of that impact on both pay and emotional well-being and learning time. I think for me, one of the overarching things is we have to remember that they are legally entitled to strike, no matter what we might think. And as a parent of 3 children at university, I also see the other side of they're paying my children are paying a lot of money for tuition fees, and they are going to be losing valuable learning time, including one who's a fresher, who's obviously settling in and might be becoming destabilised by anything that should happen. Yeah, so those are kind of the sort of top line concerns, but also it's worth mentioning at this point that it's not just in universities where strikes happen, they also happen in the independent sector as well.
Yeah, we've seen strikes in the independent sector over pensions as well. For example, St Edward's School teachers had a strike over the summer about the school's decision to pull them out of the teachers' pension scheme because they're increasing employer contributions, and that has come into place now. But the school did listen to them, the people who striked, and they delayed the withdrawal from the scheme by 12 months. So they now leave in September 2020. So in that case, the strike did make a difference. But yeah, it's definitely questions, I guess, if they're sort of clearly communicating with their pupils, and they can make up that time lost, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a key factor in mitigating.
And the difficult thing, isn't it, is that they are striking to protect their future, and also students of the future, but then students of the present are the ones that suffer.
It's a really difficult more than dilemma, but
it
is a tricky issue, and I think you're right, Jo, in saying that the communication there is key. If you speak to your students about what's going on and let them know the details of what's happening, I'm sure that they would support their teachers. Because I think most students see the value that their teachers bring to their lives. So saying, if you're trying to protect future students and not just yourselves, and also protect our education system, then that's a wonderful thing. But I think if you leave students in the dark and just don't turn up to your lectures, that's where you've got a problem.
I know that because I was at uni when this was happening first time round, and mostly I would say that it was popular to support the teachers. It was, if you didn't, then that wasn't great. And also the best lecturers were the ones who actually did extra work on top of that. They didn't come in, but they put everything online. They would do sort of stream capture, zooming and things like that, just to make sure that we didn't lose out.
I think that's one of the points that Chris Roberts made, is that to kind of protect themselves as well, universities have to put things in place so that students don't miss out and aren't penalised, especially if they've got a coursework deadline or an exam coming up. and he gives some quite good advice as to some just simple measures they can put in place, such as extending deadlines, offering additional tutorials, and making arrangements for materials to be accessible, like you said, remotely and during holiday periods.
Tech can really help in this kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that there is content and availability there.
Yes, especially with sort of BYOD, you know, you can work from anywhere.
And just VLEs and things, make sure all your content is uploaded and on your VLE, and that your students will have access to that.
Yeah. And also to sort of any support services they might need if they are kind of destabilised by this and are worried or already behind. Then it's good to make sure that they know where they can go and who's available at what time.
Absolutely. And what about refunds and things on the university's part?
I think the tricky thing is there is obviously a transactional arrangement between the university and the student, because money's exchanged hands. So there are sort of contractual issues, but I think the way to go, from my understanding, is if you try and mitigate as much as possible by doing all those things. I think students may have a claim against sort of if they've been distressed or stressed during such periods. They could have like a compensation claim. I don't think it's very clear cut. I think the best thing universities can do is to make sure they prepare as much as possible in advance of any strikes, so that students are as well catered for as possible.
Absolutely. And make it clear when it's going to happen as far in advance as possible, so that students can make sure they have all the resources they need and ask the questions they would like to ask before the strikes happen.
And it is good to make it a discussion with students as well, because it's part of real life. It's the sort of real life that they are about to enter.
Absolutely.
You know, striking, and it's political, it's
students strike every so they are aware that people have a right to do that. And need to do it sometimes, unfortunately.
And I think it's good. I think I learned a lot about things like that just because it happened around me. So
absolutely.
I mean, especially if students are studying political science or something akin to that, anything that's contemporary, it could be a really valuable learning experience.
It's good to teach them that you can stand up for your rights, and also to query things that are happening around you.
Absolutely.
Look at things
don't
critically.
just accept authority or
question everything. Absolutely. And also that there is an option for peaceful protest. You know, strikes, they are disruptive, but they are peaceful in nature, and that can really get you somewhere.
Absolutely.
If you'd like to continue the conversation, just head to our private member-only LinkedIn groups, where you can share ideas with peers. So for university business, that will be...
Just head over to Higher Education, The Conversation, or please send tweets into @ub_UK, or visit us online at universitybusiness.co.uk. And if there's any points you'd like to raise today about pensions or anything else, please contact me direct at kathy.parnham@wildfirecoms.co.uk.
And for education technology, anything related to EdTech, you can find our LinkedIn group, Education Technology, The Conversation. Just give that a search. Our Twitter handle is @educ_technology. And I'd love to hear any EdTech stories or comments you have on what we've spoken about today, or anything you see in the magazine. So you can check out our website at edtechnology.co.uk, and you can email me direct at charlie.rogers@wildfirecoms.co.uk.
And for me, our LinkedIn group is Independent Education, The Conversation, Twitter at IE_today, and also check out our website, ie-today.co.uk.
Thanks for listening to The Education Station.